Shalom, I'm Ezra from Jewish Voice here again with my friend Paula. And, Paula, we're 10 days in today to the war in Israel. It's Monday, week and change after the war broke out. And Gaza, rockets continue to fly towards now Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, even farther than they were flying. Tens of thousands of IDF soldiers poised, ready to go in to Gaza as soon as civilians are out of the way. Meanwhile, in the north, Hezbollah continues to attempt to infiltrate, all with this agenda to annihilate the Jewish people and wipe out the state of Israel. So many urgent things to pray for, so much bad news. The number of hostages, as we're sure you've seen on the news, is now up to 199 Israeli civilians being held in the borders of Gaza. This is heavy. It needs prayer. And yet the Lord. There's some good news. There's ways that we're seeing him show up even in the midst of this that we want to thank him for and be encouraged by. What are some of the ways you see that?
Amen. Well, interestingly enough, as we're praying so strongly here for the body in Israel, one of the ways I've actually been encouraged is hearing them talk about what they're going through and how they are looking to the Lord and how they're coming together and they're worshiping and they're praying and they're interceding and they're standing on his promises for themselves as Jewish people and for the land. Like, that has lifted my spirits. That has been good news, even though I know it's very, very hard for them. And another thing that I keep thinking about is we don't look for trials and tribulations and tragedies to come along, and yet when they do, they can become an open door for the gospel.
The Lord turns something the enemy meant for evil into good.
Yes, even in history, there's studies that have been done of times of revivals and how they're so often coming out of these terrible times, the times you would never welcome, and yet they become opportunities to share the good news. And really, salvation in Yeshua and everything that comes with that is such good news to remind ourselves of every moment in the midst of this.
And so we're hearing those reports from the land of Israel, from our Jewish believing brothers, believers in Jesus, and from Arab Christian partners of us here at the ministry. And we're rejoicing in that good news, this open door for the gospel, but we also want to pray into it so that it not only sustains, but that it continues and expands. So praying, asking the Lord for open doors for the good news in Jewish and Arab communities in the land of Israel and the region right now. In the darkest of times, the light of the gospel, the light of Yeshua, Jesus, can break in. Paula, we're also praying for unity among the body. And we're hearing reports of Arab Christians and Jewish believers, Messianic Jews, coming together right now in a time when all the headlines and all the current events say you should be as far apart as possible. And they're saying, no, the love God's given us one for another compels us.
Amen.
And so they're coming together. And we know, according to the Psalms, that unity commands a blessing. And we're also praying that God would strengthen the remnant of his people, the Messianic Jewish community and Arab Christians in Israel, not only in prayer right now, but also that he would be able to use them as they're beginning to meet practical needs. Displaced families, traumatized adults and children, lack of drinking water and clothes for those who were kicked out of their homes or whose homes were burnt. We want to pray, and we want to ask you to pray with us that the believing community in Israel would rise up now to be a shining light set on a hill that isn't dismayed, that isn't without hope. Traumatized even by a difficult time. Yes, heartbroken by what's happened, but that the Lord would give them grace and strength to be a light and a blessing and to bring hope to all the people living in Israel right now. So,
amen. Vehicles and vessels of good news.
Amen. Amen. Pray with us to that end, and we're going to continue to tell you the urgent prayer needs, and as we're able, we're going to continue to tell you the things we can rejoice in, that we want to say, yes, amen, more, Lord. So stick with us, and thank you so much for praying.